Hello, I'm just a 94-year-old lady who is very happy to have the opportunity to share some of my views with you concerning Black history, its importance, and the impact that it has, and why we must share our views with as many generations as the Lord allows. In our family, there are 5 generations at this time. The oppressor always seeks to erase our history, our language, our music, our fathers, and our God from our present and our future. Notice what history has shown that they have done with our men. That's because they want to erase the father figure from our lives. The pastor keeps reminding us of what we do not have. I'm here to remind you of what we do have. He leaves out the fact that the things that were taken away from us or stolen from us was because of his or her doing. Now, Black history and any history begins and ends with God, in my opinion. If we deny the existence of God, we are most miserable and have no hope. And that's why we are trying to set up such a way that we pretend that man is God, that we are God, because we will have no hope. We'll always feel defeated because we're imprisoned in our own mind, and so we become homicidal or even suicidal. And that's why we must really rally around the slogans like I'm Black and Proud, Black Lives Matter, Sweet By and By, and I'm glad trouble don't last always. We must honor our fathers and mothers. We must respect those in authority. Now, the problem exists when men, women, classmates, or organizations try to be our God. When those in authority abuse their powers and cause chaos. History has shown that any nation or people who forget their God come to nothing or they are extinct. We keep reading about lost tribes. We unearth the cities and we note the writings and the drawings, and we are amazed. We wonder, how did they exist before us? We deny our God can do anything, and that the earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof. We will allow ourselves to not remember our history. On a personal note, some years ago we established a Decay Day Health Center, and Dr. Richardson provided a clinic in the Bond area in Tallahassee for those who had no money. There is a building that bears his name. Black History Month reminds us of the inventions, the accomplishment, the contribution we've made. We pioneer many times. We don't get the recognition nor the wealth. Members of our family worked in the railroad. One was called the L&N. They tracked, they moved tracked by muscles, but they had a rhythm to the song, and it would tell them when to pull, when to push. And you've heard the song said, I'm working on the railroad all the days of my life. But that was really a rallying song. And the machine that went out. I remember my dad-in-law called it the yellow jacket, the yellow cab. Overalls, and we call them overalls. Well, they were mended because of the tug. Then sometimes a tooth of a snake was found in the boots. They don't know when or where the snake was when they were working. But the Lord saved lives, and He let these men return to their wives, even from dangers seen and unseen. My granddaddy, Ed Jones, and my mom, Sally King, worked on the railroad. My granddaddy was a tiny man, so to speak, but he was the cook, and so he took his daughter with him to cook. And she tells a story about putting too much pepper one time in the meal. And so uh, when they remarked about it, she says, well, that would just make them eat less. And there are many stories about the railroad. Our brothers and fathers and female relatives, they fought in armed service. They liberated people in other countries while they were criticized, discriminated against, and many of the people they saved were afraid of them because their fellow soldiers said that the black were not fully men. They said that the men had tails. They said that they were only 3/5 of a person, and so they can't vote and they can't hold great supervisory jobs, and it's all right for them to die in war, in prison, in the street, and even in homes. So many of them are given double life sentences, and we wondered why until recently, because a sentence of life is considered 25 years. And so when they give you 2 life sentences, that means that you will be in jail at least 50 years with no parole, no possibility of parole, and hopefully you will die in prison. But the Lord has preserved some things for us. The Lord has permitting some to come out. The Lord has even permitted some to live the 50 years and come out, because my God can do anything. And we should never forget His mercy and His kindness to us. We must tell our story. We must tell how the Lord has permitted us to bear children in spite of no hospitals, no real doctors. And the interesting thing about the midwives, in my lifetime, they discouraged the midwives. They did not let them practice. And now there's a new generation coming up that encourage you to go to a midwife instead of a doctor. But the Lord, the Lord has protected us in spite of. We've had to go to the field. We've had to almost deliver some children in the field. We've had to leave some children who were 4 and 5 to take care of other children, but the Lord has preserved us. We must never forget it. We must never forget. We must be grateful. And only the Lord could give them that insight. Only the Lord could give that intellect. And many of them could not read nor write. They could hardly walk. The multicolor of our children tells the story. We don't need Ancestry.com or any agency to tell our story. Look at the skin. Look at the eyes. Look at the shape of our nose. Look at our hair. And look at the opportunities that have been denied us. We cannot deny that only God, only because of God. Look at our God. In spite of it, We read. We are mathematicians, doctors, lawyers, teachers, nurses, preachers, engineers, artists, inventors, and all of this is because of our God. Yes, we need Black history. We need our history, our music, our art, our families, our churches, our communities, our country, our universe to know that if it had not been for the Lord and our faith on our side, all this would not have happened. None of it would have happened. He has allowed us to travel. There would be no Black history to pass on if it had not been for the Lord. We have a rich heritage to pass. We have come and we continue to be overcomers. Lives matter. Black lives matters. All that we are